The United Nations says a humanitarian crisis is unfolding in Ethiopia. More than 30,000 people have fled the country since the beginning of the month. The federal government there has launched what many are calling an ethnic war on the Tigray region in the north. Hundreds of people have reportedly died so far. The conflict is threatening to destabilize the region. According to UNICEF, children are being most impacted by this conflict. The organization says some 2.3 million of them are in urgent need of assistance. Thousands more are at high risk in refugee camps. For more on this, I'm joined by James Elder. He is UNICEF's head of communications for the Africa region, and he joins me from the Kenyan capital of Nairobi. James, welcome. Great to have you with us. So for those of our viewers who are only just familiarizing themselves with this story, how would you assess the situation on the ground right now in Ethiopia?
Yeah, it's a real mix. It's dire, basically. What's happening in Tigray is you've got a mix of there's a blackout. It's hard to get communications from there, but we still have UNICEF people on the ground, and we know from those refugees fleeing that we've got civilians who are being bombarded. We have a conflict ongoing. There are, as you say, millions of children who require support. Obviously, education has ceased. But we're also seeing those reports when they come out. You're seeing children who've seen bombardments. We are seeing children who have been hit by shrapnel. We are assuming children have been killed. Certainly all those standard things that they require, healthcare and nutrition, are all being thrown into disarray in that area of Tigray where there are millions of kids. And then you've got tens of thousands of people, again, about half of which are children, fleeing across the border into Sudan.
Right, so let's talk about those children, James, because UNICEF says some 12,000 of them, some of these are children without parents or relatives, are among those sheltering in refugee camps. What exactly makes them so vulnerable right now, and who is caring for those children?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it starts when, if you can, it's one of those things that you never wish upon anyone to imagine to be in your home in that Tigray region. And we're talking about regular mums and dads. Dad's a doctor or parents are farmers, and suddenly there's a bombardment and life as you know it is thrown into disarray. Those people then flee for 3, 4, 5 days with quite often nothing but the shirts on their back. They cross rivers, they lose nutrition as they get there, and then, yes, they arrive in refugee camps where unfortunately there's very little. Organisations like UNICEF are working overtime to get those critical things like nutrition and water, safe water, to these people. Sudan's already got a lot of refugees and internally displaced people. So they arrive there, there's very little, they might be injured. As you say, many of these kids have along the journey or when they were bombarded in their home have lost their parents. So UNICEF is there, let's get them safe water. We vaccinate all these children, even a polio campaign as well. Try and get them nutrition. There needs to be medical care on top of that. And then, of course, because of what they've endured, you can't forget that they need psychological support. So we have counselling there as well. But there's a lot. We know that there are other crises going on. So everyone is stretched right now.
And what about Ethiopia's neighbors? Have they been at all cooperative in helping these refugees?
Yeah, look, I mean, where I am, there's obviously pressure in the same way that the United Nations having pressure for those basic things of humanitarian access. You know, this is what UNICEF does. We are used to being on those front lines with people who are going through horrendous moments, both life-saving and to get them back on their feet. But we need access to those areas. Right now, humanitarian access into Tigray is blocked. Communications are blocked. So the first thing, regional leaders in this part of the world are lobbying, just like the Secretary General of the United Nations is, we need unfettered access. It's what the UNICEF Executive Director said. And then, of course, you've got countries like Sudan that have opened their borders, and organisations like UNICEF are there to support. So there is that support, but of course, while conflict is going on, there are many, many more tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of kids at risk if things continue to escalate and these people keep having to flee to areas where there really isn't a lot.
Well, in terms of that potential escalation, is there any sign that fighting may slow down soon? And how important are these next few days and weeks for the country?
Yeah, the next few days and weeks are absolutely critical, and they're critical for those people who are enduring it. Again, those children who, a few weeks ago were lying safely at home and going to school, and who dealt with all the other things that children have dealt with around the world, like a pandemic, and suddenly their life has turned upside down. At the moment, it doesn't look like, when we listen to comments being made, it doesn't look like there's a de-escalation. That is a grave concern. That is another reason why we need UNICEF on the ground. We provide support, but we're also, we are a witness to these things, to ensuring international humanitarian law is upheld, to ensuring that children are kept out of harm's way. I mean, that is a first priority of all fighting forces here. You must make sure that children are protected, and that is often not the case. So the next few days are critical for those mums and dads, and particularly those children, where, as you said at the start, we are talking about large numbers of kids.
Indeed. Well, James Elder with UNICEF, thank you so much for joining us and for all you're doing to try and help that region of the world. Thank you.